How does an author go from being solely a writer to having one of the most successful podcast shows in internet history? With 1.2 million listeners and growing, January Jones talks to amazing people and plenty of other people listen. With her insightful books about the Kennedy family, January made a name for herself. And between her new book, Thou Shalt Not Whine, and her success on the internet, she's a media force to reckon with. We'll hear from January Jones on all of the above right after my public speaking tip of the week here on Full Speech Ahead. So stay tuned.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! We are free at last!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
We've got to take the neighborhood back.
So my children will not be afraid to say the word AIDS when I am gone.
Each one of you has your own platform. Mine is a stage in a studio. Yours is wherever you are.
Welcome to Full Speech Ahead, the program where we look at communication in all its many facets with an emphasis on the spoken word. I'm your host, public speaking coach Milo Shapiro from publicdynamics.com. Before we get on to my guest today with segments on our whiny American culture, how she became a hit podcaster, and what was really going on in the Kennedy White House, here's my public speaking tip of the week. Sometimes people say to me, Milo, how do you work with people if their only issue is their fear of public speaking? And the answer is, I really don't, because I don't buy it. Here's the analogy I like to use. If you were up on the high diving board and afraid to dive into the pool, and I was your diving coach, I could climb up there and I could talk to you about visualization and breathing techniques and relaxation techniques. But if there's no water in the pool, is any of that really going to help? Of course not, because you have a perfectly good reason to be scared. You're about to do something that isn't going to go well. That's scary. Well, it's the same with public speaking. There really aren't that many people for whom it is truly just a phobia, and they're really, really good. What I find is as people start to use better examples in their material, organize their speeches better, use vocal variety more effectively, and get feedback from a coach or a Toastmasters program or something that actually is going to give them useful information, they stop being as afraid because they finally have some feedback. Most of us have reason to be afraid of public speaking because just because we know how to do the thing we're talking about doesn't mean we know a lot about how to talk about it. It's a very different skill set to express something than it is to do it. Yet we're expected to be experts because we know the topic. So through coaching, we get a chance to discover how to describe it well. The fear starts going away as we start realizing we know what we're doing up there. Okay, on to this week's interview. My guest today is January Jones, author of the book Thou Shalt Not Whine, the 11th Commandment. Her book is based on a survey of the top 10 things people whine about and reached number 1 on Amazon.com. She's also written 3 books on the Kennedy assassination, with her most recent book entitled Jackie, Ari, and Jack, The Tragic Love Triangle. Ms. Jones hosts the podcast show January Jones Sharing Success Stories at blogtalkradio.com. And I have to say she is the source of my envy because while we're both featured hosts, she has over 1 million listeners and I'm not there yet. January will be joining the entertainmentnetwork.com on May 1st with interviews on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. She's a speaker, a radio personality, a cruise ship speaker, a reality TV golfer, and a humorist in the tradition of Irma Bombeck, who I still love after all these years, doing over 500 radio and TV interviews promoting her theories on life with humor and hope. January, it's a thrill to have you on Full Speech Ahead.
Oh, well, thank you, Milo. It's wonderful to be here. I'm looking forward to it. I just wanted to mention that instead of the show being on at 6 p.m., it's going to be on at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and it'll be 6 p.m. for you and I because we're on the West Coast.
Oh, that's even better. Then people don't have to stay up late. Great.
Right. Okay.
Good. I think the first thing we probably should clear up is your name before we even get to anything else, because the first time I saw that January Jones had a podcast, I thought, wow, I would have thought she would be too busy with Mad Men. So you aren't her.
No, I know. I wish I were her. She's so young and beautiful and talented. Actually, January Jones is a pseudonym that I write under, and I've been using it, for close to 20 years when my first book came out, and that was in 1996, my first Kennedy book, Oh No, Jackie O. And I decided to use a pseudonym because I didn't want to embarrass my family in case the book was too explosive, and it turned out it was, because it ended up on the front cover. It was on the National Enquirer. So I became January Jones, and it's a great name because people remember it.
Yeah, having a name that's easy to remember makes a big difference. At this point, who would have thought another one would have come along, though?
I know, actually, and January Jones is her birth name. There also was another January Jones, and she was a quote-unquote exotic dancer, which meant she was a stripper, and she used to appear on the Johnny Carson show. So there's 3 of us out there that I know of.
And probably more to come. But let's dive into your book, because I love the title, Thou Shalt Not Whine. So I'm just going to, rather than summarize anything, let you tell. What's the book about?
Well, what I did is an interesting book. I had been writing about the Kennedys, and I decided to do something lighter. And my publisher and I talked about doing a book on the whining epidemic that had taken over. Everyone was whining about everything. So we said, okay, we'll do the top 10 whines. So I did a survey, and it took 2 years to put this book together with the survey, respondents, and all the research. Turned out that there were more than 10 things that people whined about.
No big surprise.
Yeah, and it turned out that every age group had 10 of their own whines. So the book ended up being 13 chapters, and in those 13 chapters, we covered every age, every stage, from cradle to the convalescent home and the crypt. We took it all in.
I bet a lot of the whining's about the other age groups, so that's each of the lists would have to be different.
Yeah, a lot of that goes on. And what we did in the book, we put it together so that we give the cause, we give the complaint, we give the cause, why that complaint is there, and then we provide a cure. We have over 100 plus cures for whining in the book. They're with humor and hope. A lot of them are humorous. However, some of them are quite serious and quite helpful to people. I found that through the years that a lot of people have used these books in their waiting rooms. Thou shalt not whine while you're waiting.
I'm sure the secretary behind the desk there is thrilled when someone picks up the book, because it's like, ooh, maybe I won't have to hear from them now.
Exactly.
Do you find the book is equally helpful to the whiners as it is to the people who have to deal with the whiners? Because it's a different set of solutions for those two people.
Well, no one thinks they're a whiner.
Okay, that's a good point.
Everyone knows other people who whine, but no one thinks they're a whiner. So it pretty much, if they can identify themselves, go at it. I'm happy for it. We did stress also that sometimes it is okay to whine. Sometimes it is appropriate. A lot of times people go through difficult things. I have a chapter called The Pity Party, and it's what happens when you're have a death in the family, a divorce, something traumatic. And at that point in time, you need to talk. You need to get it all out before you can heal and go forward. However, we recommend that you pick your best friend and have your own private pity party so that you're not unleashing this whining on the entire world.
Scheduled whining.
Yes.
I like that idea.
And, women are so good at that.
Of planning and scheduling it?
Absolutely. What do you think we do when we're going out to lunch or whatever?
Yes, I've heard it at the next table on occasion, so I know you're right. So let's talk about that, men versus women. I do want to talk about the age groups, but you went there, so let's go there first. What different things do men whine about versus women? Because I assume men just are considered whiners in your books as well.
Yeah. Well, the women don't like to hear me say this, and I'm not saying it in a sexist way, but women are bigger whiners than men, and it's just by virtue of the fact that the research showed that women speak 6,000 words a day, and most men are lucky if they speak 2,000 words.
Oh, I didn't realize
So
it was that different. That's pretty dramatic.
yeah, so just by virtue of the output, the quantity of words that they were spouting out, there's a lot of more whining opportunities.
Yeah, I guess if you only get 2,000 words a day, you got to pick them carefully.
Yeah, right. And, it seems that women, it would appear they whine about personal things. They whine about their hair, their weight, their mother-in-laws, their children, their husbands, their girlfriends, whatever, where men, they tend to whine about big things. They take on the big issues like government, politics, all the economics, financial, sports. The men tend to whine about things that they can't possibly do anything about.
Wow, that sounds kind of pointless, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's what they do.
So are women
I guess it makes them feel good.
Are women whining more to their friends and that doesn't do anything, or whining to the men in their life in hopes of a solution?
Well, I think it could go either way. If you're whining to your friends, they're going to commiserate with you, and most of your really good friends will totally agree with anything you say.
And maybe it's a practice session. Maybe it's a chance to get it out, to get another perspective before taking it to the source.
Yes, exactly. And if you're going to whine to your husband, I mean, it's really hard to even get his attention. You have to first take away his remote control.
No, you're not getting that, especially the ones with the DVR.
Yeah.
That's gold.
Yeah, it's very difficult to, have a husband who will listen to your whining. Women want to be heard, and men, they want to fix things. Women want just someone to listen and understand and commiserate with them. If you whine to your husband, he wants to figure out right away how he can fix it just so he can probably stop your whining.
Yeah, more than fixing the problem, he just wants that to stop, I guess.
Yeah, probably. But men are fixers. They want to get things fixed and taken care of and get on with their sports program. We always say to women, if you are with a man and he's whining about something, we call it the sports cure whine. And it's the quickest cure for whining. It's all you have to do to say to your husband or your boyfriend or your better part, so how's that team doing? Or what do you think about those Jets? And all of a sudden, you've changed this topic and they'll stop whining.
Because you've given them what they really have wanted to talk to you about for 6 months.
Yes, exactly, sports. Or better yet, take up golf. Then you both can whine together.
That is a key one to share. As I mentioned to you off the air, we do this show in 3 segments, and I still want to talk to you about your podcast and the Kennedy stuff. So I'm going to wrap up this segment by giving you the chance to say, if people are interested in the book, should they go through your website? Should they go straight to Amazon? How would you like them to learn more about you?
Oh, I would suggest that they get their credit card out and go right to Amazon and sign up for the one click. The book is in paperback, and all of my books are in paperback and Kindle.
Okay. So Amazon.com for anything we're talking about today. And just so they have it, do you want to share a website to learn a little bit more about you in general?
Yes, JanuaryJones.com.
You got it. I hadn't asked you in advance, so I didn't want to assume.
Yeah, I got it a long, long time ago before anyone else even probably was born who might have wanted it.
Smart thinking. And when we come back, we're going to ask her more about how someone gets to have 1 million listeners in the crazy and complicated and very crowded world of podcasting. So we'll be back in 30 seconds.
Got photos that need improvement? Freshen your photo. Old family shots that have gotten damaged? Freshen your photo. Want someone or something removed from a picture? Freshen your photo. At freshenyourphoto.com, we turn the pictures you have into the pictures you want. Add muscle, lose weight, lighten face lines, whiten teeth, fix darker off-color shots. See before and afters from dozens of happy customers at freshenyourphoto.com. That's freshenyourphoto.com.
And we're back with segment 2 of Full Speech Ahead with my guest, podcast host and author, January Jones. So let's just kind of go back to the whole podcast thing. You've been an author for years. How did you make the transition or even decide you wanted to be a talk show host?
Well, it kind of gradually, I slipped into it. I started doing it when I was living in Los Angeles. And I worked for big media. I did a show for them once a week. Then I went over to Voice America and I did shows for them.
And when
And I
how
loved
long
it.
ago was that?
It was just something that I enjoyed doing, chatting on the phone. It was very exciting. Well, the other studios, I had to go to a studio, and I didn't like that because you had to get your makeup done, and you had to go in there, and you had to work with engineers and producers, and it was a little more complicated. So when the opportunity came to do talk radio from the internet with a telephone, I jumped at it.
When was that? When are we talking?
Oh, that was, I'd say about 6 or 7 years ago. I did
So not that long ago.
No. And I did 2 years with Voice America, and then I kind of got over it, and I decided, well, I wasn't going to do it, and I stopped doing it. And then it's like the mafia, they kind of suck you back in.
So you had a following.
Yeah, and I became involved with a networking company called Successimo, and they were working on setting up networking, social network on the internet. They they haven't launched yet, but they sponsored me. And I called the show January Jones Sharing Successimo Stories. And now I've shortened it to January Jones Sharing Success Stories. And I've been at Blog Talk, about a year and a half now.
Wow. See, I assumed that you had built up 1 million listeners being there for the 6 or 7 years. You've only been there for a year and a half. All right, I just have to ask you straight out, how do you get 1 million listeners?
Well, actually, it's 1.2 million as we speak. You know what happened? I really don't know how to tell you the answer to that. It was a wonderful surprise because it started last August. I was just going along getting, a couple hundred listeners a month, and I thought that was awesome. Then in August, it jumped to 20,000 listeners, and then it just kept jumping each month. And I think my highest month has been 420,000 listeners.
And how many days a week is that?
Well, now the show goes 7 days a week. However, weekends are reruns, so I am only live 5 days a week.
Oh, only 5.
Only 5. And you know what else I did is I changed the show from an hour to 30 minutes because who could do 5 hours a week? That would be killer. So I think I dropped the show to 30 minutes, and it just all of a sudden it picked up and became popular.
Now, you're saying in 1 month you suddenly went from hundreds to 20,000?
Yes, that's what happened.
Is there anything in particular you did differently, or was it just the snowball?
I think it was a snowball.
Oh.
It caught on. People started listening. They started telling other people. When people ask me how it works, every show that I do before the show, we send out a show page to our guests so that they have the show link that they can share with their social media.
Right.
Then after the show, I then share the link with all of my social media. And I think it's a process that you have to go through. Also, as you know, being a featured host is a tremendous help.
Such a help. Yeah, that was such a wonderful discovery. I had to call them for a tech support question. I said, what's this orange box that said feature? They said, you don't know? That's not easy to get. I'm like, really? How did I get that? And I guess somebody at Blog Talk Radio has to decide they like your show.
Exactly. And you can't buy it.
No, but once it's there, what's wonderful is it's not just that episode. I had thought at first it was just that episode. They're like, no, it means that you are a featured host. Yes. And every time I see you, and you are up there, every time I turn on Blog Talk, I see you on that home page. Is that because of your listenership? Because I'm sure we have other podcasters who are listening and trying to learn from the pro. I mean, you have the reputation. So what gets you on that homepage? Do you know?
Well, I think I submit my shows for feature consideration, and it all is with, I think you're writing up your show and making your guests sound interesting and promoting what they have to say. I think I have a format that's very eclectic. Because my show is about success shows, I consequently can talk about business, I can talk about family. There's not any aspect of life. I have food, cooking, entertainment, movies, actors. I can talk about any subject, and I think that gives me a leg up on a lot of the other shows because I'm so diverse.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've noticed as I've seen all the topics that you've gone through, and having been on a guest on your show, it's almost kind of like a podcast live with Regis and Kathy Lee, that anything could happen, but it's always going to be interesting with you at the control.
Yeah. I can't think of a better job in the world, because I get to wake up every morning and talk to some of the most interesting people. And I get to share them, and some of their stories are just, they stay with you forever. I've had some amazing guests. I feel very, very lucky to have this opportunity at Blog Talk. It's been a wonderful experience for me.
I won't ask you to pick a favorite because A, that would be unfair to you, and B, it'd put you on the spot to think of one. But can you share maybe a couple that come to mind as amongst your favorites?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'd love to share. Actually, we did a rerun of her show this last week, and she got terrific numbers. Jeannie Kerrigan, and she has a nonprofit organization called Ricky's Revolution. And Jeannie was a incest victim, and she was a runaway. And she writes a book. Her book is called Layla. And she shared her book, and she shared her organization. She spoke about what it was like to survive incest. And she spoke, interestingly enough, about the process of forgiveness, how she has spiritually evolved and been able to forgive. She's organized It's Ricky's Revolution, and this is a little monkey that she carried around with her when she was on the streets. And this monkey she designed it, so they've given, it has...
Oh, it looks like we lost January for a second. I'm hoping she'll be back in just a moment.
Numbers embroidered on it with phone numbers that run away in 1 year.
January, I have to interrupt you for a second because you disappeared sound-wise for a moment. So we lost the middle of that story, and it was interesting enough. We left off at where the monkey was, where she had the monkey.
Okay, well, she had the monkey, and she kept it with her as she was a runaway. So then now she has designed a monkey, a replica monkey, and on this monkey embroidered are the phone numbers that runaway or abused children can call when they're out on the streets, and so they can get help.
Oh, wow.
And she's given away 10,000 monkeys in 1 year, so her nonprofit is just a fabulous story to share.
Isn't it just wonderful, like having the opportunity to connect with these people and talk to them for half an hour? One of the things I love about doing the podcast is it gives me an excuse to call interesting people and say, would you be on my show?
And I bet they all say yes, because everyone loves to
I don't know that I've had a no yet. I've had trouble finding schedules, but it's always worked out. But people love to talk about the things they're passionate about, and those are the things I want them talking about.
Right, exactly.
As someone who has done a lot of writing, but also 5 days a week is on the air, do you have a preference between the two?
Oh, gosh. That is really a tough question, because writing became my first passion. And my feeling is when you're doing something you're passionate about, it's not work. For me, it's such a pleasure. I love writing. However, now radio has become my second passion. I love doing radio. I love talking to people. I love meeting people. I love sharing them. I love sharing their wonderful stories.
And it's more than giving them a chance to share. You have the gift of gab, which really works for this. There is that feeling of somebody's on the other end, just giving the person their chance to keep talking. It's very interactive with you, which is why I've found your show to be fun to listen to. But not everyone who writes well speaks well. In fact, some of my best clients are people who wrote a book because they wanted to sit and write, and then they had to talk about the book. They're like, help, I need help. I didn't expect to have to talk. That's not your challenge.
Yeah, that happens. Sometimes you ask a question and there's a little bit of dead air and you have to jump right in there.
When we come back from this 30-second break, we're going to get on to some of the things you've written the most about, which is the fascinating years and a lot of behind-the-scenes work on learning about what's going on in the Kennedys' life. So we'll be back in 30 seconds, so stay tuned.
Not another boring conference.
Liven it up with IMPROVentures and the fun of improvisation. Check out motivational speeches and entertainment that get everyone learning through play and laughter. For smaller groups, Teamprovising is our teamwork and communication program with more feedback and fun. Plus public dynamics, keynotes, training, and coaching on public speaking skills. You can be more effective in front of groups. Learn more today.
IMPROVentures, 619-542-0761, or see videos at IMPROVevents.com.
And we're back with segment 3, talking to January Jones, author and very successful podcaster. On the break, I had a chance to ask her if she was leaving Blog Talk Radio with these new things that are happening with the entertainment network, and she said not at all. It's adding on to it. So, January, you're going to be even more busy. How are you up for that?
Well, as I said earlier, if it's your passion, guess what? It's not work. You enjoy doing it. And I love being at Blog Talk, and I would never leave Blog Talk. It's been a great experience for me, and I highly encourage anyone out there who is interested in getting into radio. Blog Talk is a great way to get your feet wet and get into it.
Absolutely. So now let's go on to the thing that was your original passion for writing, talking about the Kennedys. So let's start by saying what drew you to that topic?
Oh, well, for my generation, it's unfinished business. We all remember where we were and what we were doing when Kennedy was killed. So for over 50 years now, we've been all talking about it and thinking about it. And it's been something that it's what I consider the perfect crime of the last century, because we're still trying to figure out who killed Kennedy.
So you don't feel certain that it was Oswald, or do you feel like there was somebody behind it?
Well, my book is called, my first book was Oh No, Jackie O, and then my second book is called Jackie, Ari, and Jack, The Tragic Love Triangle. And in that book, which is quite controversial, I submit that my theory is that Aristotle
the interview, and I appreciate
was the man who had the motive, the money, and the means to eliminate John Kennedy and marry his widow.
Reading through some of the facts that you had sent me to be familiar with the book, so I wouldn't have to read all three in time for the interview, and I appreciate that. I was surprised to find out that Jackie didn't have money.
Right, I know. Everyone is surprised at that. She was not a wealthy woman. She basically, none of the Kennedys ever have big divorces because they all sign prenups and everything stays in the Kennedy Foundation. They don't even own the homes they live in. So they basically don't have divorce suits or big court fights over money. However, all she got when Jack died was she had $25,000 and the interest from the Children's Trust Fund.
Wow. That's like nothing. Even back then, that's nothing to live on for the rest of your life.
Especially the way she liked to live, yeah.
The other thing I hadn't realized, there was a lot of things I hadn't realized, but one of the things that jumped out at me was I didn't realize that she and Onassis were so linked back while she was still married. I thought he was someone who came into her life after that. Was that publicly known?
Well, everyone thinks that, and it was actually documented, and that's how I found this research, and it was known, but it was a different time. People didn't talk about things like that. People didn't talk about JFK's affairs. Jackie had gone and spent time with Onassis on his ship while she was still married to JFK, and he did not want her to go on that cruise. However, she insisted. And, the Kennedys needed her because they needed her for the campaign. She was worth a lot of votes to them. So he let her go on that cruise, and on that cruise, I suspect that Onassis became very enchanted with her. He had been having an affair with her sister.
Oh.
But then Jackie showed up, and, she was a bigger catch, a bigger fish in the pond. And so he started courting Jackie on the cruise. She left the ship with over $50,000 in jewels, a little farewell gift for him, and then she went back to Washington.
So that's why he gave her more in jewelry than JFK left to her.
Yes, I know. It's so true.
Wow. Wow. So
yeah.
The marriage between Jackie and JFK, before we even get to Onassis being involved in it, was it purely political? Do you feel like they were in love and it evolved into that as they got to know each other more and realized they weren't actually
much preferred to have stayed a bachelor and never get married. So she had high hopes. But then the reality is Jack only got married because he had to his father wanted him to have a Catholic wife, and his father wanted him to run for president. Jack would have much preferred to have stayed a bachelor and never get married. So there they were, and she had high hopes, but she quickly found out that his life as a bachelor continued. he was in that social set that went on a lot. His father did that. Her father ran around on her mother. So it was a part of their lifestyle.
So it makes sense from Jack's point of view to have the perfect wife on the surface and have the bachelor life in reality. What was in it for Jackie? Was she just afraid of going public, or was she being a divorced Catholic? Why would she stay?
Oh, there was so much stigma. First of all, there was a question of money. She knew that if she went and divorced Jack, she wouldn't get much money, and she would be the most hated woman in the country because no one else knew what was going on. She also cared very much about her children, and she wanted to preserve their legacy, and she tried very hard to do that.
How did Joe Kennedy fit into the equation? What was the relationship between him and Jackie?
He adored her. And she could joke around with him and get away with him with things that the other Kennedys couldn't. She was quite a catch. And Joe, when he cast his net to find the wife for the future president, she was his first choice.
There, to stay in the marriage.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes,
I've known
absolutely.
that. Wow. And
They met, but as soon as Jack introduced her, Joe actually even bought her engagement ring for her.
Wow. Somewhere in the fact sheet, I think you said that Joe gave Jackie $1 million to stay there, to stay in the marriage.
Yeah.
So at least she had that money.
Well, no, she didn't really have that money because that money was Kennedy Trust Fund money. So it wasn't cash. The first time she had money of her own was on her wedding day to Aristotle Onassis. That was a $5 million day. She got $3 million in cash for herself and $1 million for each child. And this was the first time in her entire life that she had money of her own.
Onassis wasn't just rich. You more than imply that he was kind of corrupt, and that was where all the money was coming from.
Yeah, he had his fingers in a lot of things. He was involved in drug trafficking in the Golden Triangle, shipping oil. He was he brokered World War II. He supplied arms and munitions and fuel to both sides during that war, and he stayed in New York counting his money.
Wow. And the story of, you would think the big story, your book is called Jackie, Ari, and Jack, that there is the story in itself, but it's not. This fact sheet, and there's only so much we can cover. Your book, I got to keep going to read the whole book. But, the whole story doesn't end because the story of Jackie and Onassis after that is no small story either.
Right. They did not live happily ever after. However, when she died, she had started off with $5 million, and I think she was worth $260 million when she died.
So when is it that we finally get access? I know they're all locked up somewhere. Access to Jackie's papers.
Well, her papers were supposed to be opened in 2044, and I was looking forward to that. I even wrote a movie script about that. However, I don't think we can look forward to that because it's my understanding that her daughter Caroline has edited her papers.
Already?
Yes.
That means she's had access to them?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't think we'll ever hear Jackie's story.
Wow. What a thing to go down in history. Because I thought the same thing, that someday, 30 years out was enough into my lifetime, that be something to look forward to, the big release, but I guess not. No, or at least not in full.
Yeah, she sealed her papers for 80 years, and it's my understanding that they have been opened.
Wow. Interesting. All right, before we wrap, tell us about your next book.
Oh, yes, I'm very excited. My next book is coming out later this year. It's called January Jones Presenting Priceless Personalities, and it's going to be based on some of the interviews that I've done from the radio show. People like Jeannie Kerrigan, who I spoke about earlier, and I have several others that I'll be featuring, and we're taking the transcripts from the interviews and making them into a book.
Well, I don't know how you're going to pick from the material. Even just on Blog Talk, not even before that, 1.5 to 2 years, 5 days a week, it's going to be quite a pick to pick out your top most interesting ones for the book, probably.
Well, I'm hoping that, I'm going to knock chicken soup out of the box.
Well, we wish you luck with that. January, I want to thank you for being my guest today on Full Speech Ahead.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Well, good. I also want to let my listeners know they can learn more about all that January's been saying and a lot more at JanuaryJones.com. I'll say that again without tripping. JanuaryJones.com. And they can get her book by through her site or by going directly to Amazon.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, please check out other interviews I have posted at FullSpeechAhead.com, and you can check out that same site for information about my coaching and training in public speaking for you or your work team. I'm also available for my team building course, Teamprovising, where we use games of improvisation to look at teamwork, creativity, and communication. And my motivational speeches on risk-taking get the whole audience playing along. More on that at IMPROVentures.com. I'm Milo Shapiro, always moving full speech ahead. Till next time.
Full Speech Ahead is a production of Thrive Talk Radio, a collaboration of leaders broadcasting together as catalysts for change. We are committed to supporting your highest well-being through limitless possibility, vibrant health, conscious choices, and personal transformation. Our motto is Empowered Words, Empowered Lives. More on all of our varied programs at thrivetalkradio.com.
Not another boring conference.
Liven it up with IMPROVentures and the fun of improvisation. Check out motivational speeches and entertainment that get everyone learning through play and laughter. For smaller groups, Teamprovising is our teamwork and communication program with more feedback and fun. Plus public dynamics, keynotes, training, and coaching on public speaking skills. You can be more effective in front of groups. Learn more today.
IMPROVentures, 619-542-0761, or see videos at IMPROVevents.com.
Got photos that need improvement? Freshen your photo. Old family shots that have gotten damaged? Freshen your photo. Want someone or something removed from a picture? Freshen your photo. At freshenyourphoto.com, we turn the pictures you have into the pictures you want. Add muscle, lose weight, lighten face lines, whiten teeth, fix darker off-color shots. See before and afters from dozens of happy customers at freshenyourphoto.com. That's freshenyourphoto.com.